so hungry now.
Mm-hmm. You know, doing this stuff makes a person
Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay, man. Let me know when you're ready to start.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Live.
Okay.
How you doing, guys? Folks, ladies, gentlemen. I'm Robb Way, and you're here with Countercast. Today is a very important day for us because we actually are going to introduce ourselves to the world today and kind of let people know what we are, why we're here. We'll talk about our origin story. You know, also everybody has a manifesto, so I think we're going to have a little manifesto also, and let you know about what our mission is here at Countercast Studios. So we're all just starting out, man. We're new to the business, so we're just going to learn as we go. We learned a lot today, and so let me break it down to you guys, man. Let me all ask you something. Have you ever been in a conversation where everything feels normal, and then something shifts? Nobody says it out loud, right? Nobody even announces it, but you can feel it happen. Somebody says something, it lands a little off, then the tone changes, right? You know, people start pulling back instead of leaning in. And you can see it on their faces, right? They're calculating now. They're not listening anymore. And they're preparing. And all of a sudden, it's not the same conversation. It's not curiosity anymore, right? It's more like defense. People stop asking questions, they start building arguments. And you're sitting there thinking, all right, we just crossed something. Nobody says it, but everybody feels it. And once that happens, it's not really a conversation anymore. It's two sides, right? Well, this is Countercast. With two sides, one conversation. And I'm Robb Way. And before we start talking about politics or taking apart the politics and the culture and the media and religion and race and Hollywood, AI, hypocrisy, and all the subjects that people whisper about but don't want to say out loud, we need to start here. Why does this show exist? You see, conversation's broken, not speech. Everybody's speaking, but I think we have a listening problem. And worse than that, we have a thinking problem here in our world today. And the more I paid attention, the more I started noticing the same pattern everywhere. See, lately, and since AI came into my world, man, I see patterns everywhere. I'm awoke to the symbolism, everything that happens in daily life, and I question it. You know. And I started noticing that pattern everywhere, especially lately. And I would have to say in the last 10 or 12 years, I'm not trying to turn this into political post or anything, but, you know, I see it in politics, in religion, in culture, in race, in movies. Oh my God, don't get me going on movies. Social media, the news, the entertainment industry. And it didn't matter what the subject was. It always started normal, right? People were just talking. Then something hit a nerve, and then suddenly the goal changed. It stopped being about understanding, and it became about winning. And once that happens, the conversation is usually done. Because, you know, instead of asking, what do you mean by that? People jump straight into, I know what kind of person you are. And that's where the damage starts. Let me tell you, folks, once people decide they already know what kind of person you are, they just stop listening. They stop testing the idea. They start testing your loyalty. Are you on my side? Are you one of them? Now, see, that's not adult conversation. That's tribal thinking. And we built an entire culture around it. Now, think about it. Everybody has a voice now, right? Social media, podcast, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, everybody's talking all the time. There is more content than ever out there in the world today than I've ever seen. More options than ever, more access than ever. And somehow, there's less understanding out there in the world today. And that doesn't make sense unless something else is going on. And I think what's going on is simple. Listening takes restraint, right? And we're losing that. You see, real listening means sitting there, hearing something that you don't want to agree with or that you don't agree with, and then you react right away. You see, most people can't do that anymore. We hear something and immediately translate it into what we think it means. Then we respond to that version and that version only, not what was actually said. So now we've got two people arguing over two separate and two different realities. And neither one actually realizes it. You see, that's not conversation, folks. That's projection. So I started asking myself something. What if disagreement isn't the problem? What if disagreement is necessary? What if the real issue is that we don't stay in the conversation long enough to understand the other side? What if we bail out too early? What if we shut down too fast? What if we decide that we're right before we even understand what the other person's saying? And that happens every day. And once that decision's made, the conversation is over before it starts. And that's what Countercast came from. Not from wanting to argue for attention. Not from wanting to build another podcast that repeats one side only and only believes that and tries to push that narrative. It came from wanting a place where the conversation stays open longer than people are comfortable with. A place where both sides actually have to show up. A place where arguments are tested, not protected, not worshipped, tested. Now, Countercast didn't start as a show. It started as a question. What would happen if you forced a conversation to stay open? Not one side talking, not one perspective dominating, not a safe little room where everybody claps and for what they already believe, but a real conversation, a hard conversation. You see, a conversation where both sides are allowed to exist long enough to be examined. That's what Countercast is, right? We're a conversation engine. We take an idea, we build the strongest version of that idea, not the lazy version, not the cheap version, not the straw man version, the strongest version. Then we take the opposite side and we build the strongest version of that too. Then we put them beside each other and we let them collide. Because see, if your argument only works against the weakest version of the other side, then your argument is not as strong as you think. See, Countercast does not build scarecrows and pretend it beats giants. You see, we put the real argument on the table, then we test it. Oh, but there's always a catch-22 now, isn't there? Because you see, here's the truth most people avoid. Every meaningful issue has a trade-off. You see, you choose one side, you gain something. You choose the other side, you lose something. You defend freedom and risk chaos. You defend safety and risk control. You defend tradition and you risk stagnation. You defend progress and risk arrogance. You defend free speech and risk harm. You defend censorship and you risk abuse. See, there's always a cost. That's all I'm saying. There's always something that you give up. People don't realize that. But most conversations pretend that there's a perfect answer. And that's where everything starts breaking down, right? That's the catch-22. Two sides, no easy answer. Both incomplete, both dangerous if taken too far. Both often holding some part of the truth. But see, that doesn't mean that both sides are always equal. They're not. Some arguments are stronger. Some evidence is better. Some ideas collapse under pressure, but they should collapse in the open, right? Not because someone silenced them, not because someone labeled them, not because someone decided that you weren't allowed to hear them. See, bad ideas should be exposed, right? Weak ideas should be tested. Strong ideas should survive the pressure. See, that's the standard here at Countercast Studios. Now, I started Countercast because I wanted a place where I could think out loud without pretending I had all the answers. You see, I'm not interested in being an internet guru. I'm not interested in acting like every thought that comes out of my mouth is sacred. See, I'm a participant in this world, just like you. I'm a guy trying to understand what the hell is happening around us. I'm an actor. I'm a filmmaker. I work around stories. I work around performance. So I know how narratives are built and I know how people can be moved. Camera angles can change how you feel. A pause can change how you hear a sentence. A piece of music can tell you who to trust before anybody says a word. And that makes me respect storytelling, you see? But it also makes me suspicious of it. Because once you understand how stories work, you start seeing how other people are being guided emotionally without even realizing it. Politics does it. News does it. Film does it. Religion can do it. Social media does it constantly. And everybody's selling a version of reality, right? Countercast is me saying, hold on, let's slow down. What are we really actually being told? Who benefits from this version? What is the other side? What are we not being allowed to ask? And what happens if the approved narrative is incomplete, right? That's the energy behind this show. Not rebellion for the sake of rebellion, not controversy for clicks. Just a refusal to accept a conversation has already been written for me. Now, what this show is not, Countercast is not a safe space. I'm going to be blunt and honest with you right now. But it's also not a cheap attack space either. See, there's a difference. I see shows out there with people attacking everybody left and right because they think their version matters or their version is correct, their version is true. But this show's not here to dehumanize people. It's not here to stir up hate. It's not here to lie for engagement. And it's sure as hell not here to manufacture outrage. You see, we can attack an argument without pretending the person making it is less than human. We can challenge a worldview without wishing destruction on everybody who holds it. And we call out hypocrisy without turning into a mob. See, that line matters, folks. Because if you lose that discipline, you stop being a truth teller and you become just another performer in the outrage economy. Yeah, that's big on social media. You see, we already have enough of that. Now, Countercast is also not fake balance. I do not believe in pretending that both sides are equal or equally right just because there are two sides. That's just lazy. Sometimes one side has better evidence. Sometimes one side has a stronger moral case. Sometimes one side is just plain wrong. But even then, I want to understand why people believe what they believe. Because listen, if I don't understand why an idea attracts people, right? Then you don't really understand the idea. You only understand the reaction to it. That's just not enough. And why does this matter now? Well, this matters now because people are just tired, can't you? I mean, you can feel it. People are tired of being told what they're allowed to think. They're tired of pretending that they don't even see contradictions. And really, in reality, some people don't even see it at all. They're tired of the prepackaged narratives, especially me. I'm tired of the political tribes demanding loyalty before honesty. They're tired of celebrities lecturing them. They're tired of institutions saying only one thing and then doing another. And they're tired of headlines, clips, and algorithms and emotional bait. But I'm also tired of people. Well, I should say, tired people can go into two directions. They can just get smarter, or they can get reckless. They can become independent thinkers, or they can become conspiracy addicts. You've seen them, right? They can question narratives all day long, or they can start rejecting truth altogether. See, that's another catch 22. When people lose trust, they need better thinking. But too often, they just find a new side that has lies to them in a different tone. Countercast is not here to say trust everything. That would just be stupid. And it's not here to say trust nothing. I mean, that would also be stupid. Countercast is here to say, listen, test everything, ask better questions, follow the evidence, admit uncertainty, and change your mind when the facts demand it. See, that's harder than picking a side and staying true forever. But it is the only way to stay honest. So, what kind of conversations will Countercast take on? I'm going to tell you this: the uncomfortable ones. AI in podcasting, SAG-AFTRA in AI, racism narratives in film, social media validation, identity politics, religion, Hollywood hypocrisy, media manipulation, cancel culture, free speech, masculinity, mental health, cultural exhaustion. The stories we tell ourselves, the lies we repeat because they make our side feel good, and the truths we avoid because they make our side look bad. Not because controversy is the point, but because serious topics usually become controversial the minute that you stop repeating the approved version. So listen, Comcast lives in a space in between what people are saying publicly and what they actually wonder privately. Now, I think a lot of people have thoughts they don't say. I understand it. People have a lot to lose, especially if they say something that offends somebody and maybe the other person has a little bit more time on their hands. Not necessarily hateful thoughts, not necessarily evil thoughts, but just complicated thoughts, right? The questions, the doubts, the frustrations, the contradictions. But they keep them quiet because, see, the culture has made certain questions feel dangerous. Countercast is here to say, listen, ask it. But, ask it intelligently, ask it honestly, ask it with enough discipline to hear the answer, even if it cuts against you. See, that's the difference between courage and stupidity. Now, my job as host is not to be perfect, all right? It's not to be the smartest person in the room. And it's not to win every argument, I'm going to tell you that, even though I want to. Even though I probably want to win every argument. And I listen, man, I was raised by women, so I'm good at arguing, okay? But my job is to keep the room open. That's it. Keep the conversation alive enough for the truth to have a chance. That means I'm going to say things that some people don't like. Friends, family, whatever. That's okay. It also means I'm going to challenge my own side when it gets lazy. See, I'm not here to be owned by an audience, okay? I'm not here to say only what keeps people comfortable. If Countercast ever becomes predictable, man, then we failed. If people can guess my opinion before I make the argument, then I think we have a problem. The point is not to build a tribe that claps every time I say the right line, or the point is to build basically an audience that can handle tension. Now, I need an audience that can basically hear the other side without tearing it apart or falling apart, I should say. I need an audience that can admit when an argument is stronger than expected, but that can say, you know what, I still disagree, but I understand the point. Now, that's rare now. You can't really get that. I remember family arguments where people actually had that kind of respect. See, now this is why it matters today. All right? So here's the promise. Countercast will not pretend to be neutral when the evidence is not neutral. It will not pretend that all sides are equal when they're not. It will not hide from hard subjects. It will not hide. It will not use controversy as a cheap substitute for substance. Yeah. I will not dehumanize people. At least if I'll do my best to not offend anybody. Sometimes I'm human too, so sometimes I do get that rage when you hear something and you're like, what the hell could you think, So I'm gonna have to be careful, But I'm human like everybody else. But we're not gonna avoid uncomfortable questions just because somebody might misunderstand them, right? I think that's my problem. And it will not become a mouthpiece for every side. We're definitely not gonna do that. See, the commitment here is simple, right? We're gonna ask better questions, stronger arguments. We're going to have honest counter arguments. We're going to have a transparent process here, okay? There's always going to be that human responsibility. And if we mess up, we correct it. If we get something wrong, we're going to say so. And if the argument fails, we're not going to pretend that it didn't just because it's my show. Hey, sometimes I might lose the argument. And that's fair. I'll admit it. And I'm not going to try to edit the show to make it look like I'm the winner at the end of the day. Trust me, man, there are going to be times when I fail. And everybody else is right, and I'm going to have to admit that. I'm going to have to do live in front of the world, you know. But just so you know, if the argument fails, we're not going to pretend it didn't, and that's how trust really gets built. I think through the podcast is not by acting flawless, but by being accountable, and that's what we're here for, man. I mean, how can I expect everybody else to be accountable if I can't be accountable myself? And it's tough sometimes, you know. I think I have to have an opinion, but I don't ever want this to be an opinion platform. So trust me, if you think I'm giving you an opinion, just stop me in my tracks. Let me know. Terry over there, he going to say, "Cut the crap out. Stop that." Yeah. So, and you'll meet Terry eventually here when we get to the when we start doing the introductions and stuff later on. We're just trying to figure this out, get this out there to kind of let you know, hey, this is coming up. We're getting ready. Be ready for a new show. Okay. So let's go back in that room that I talked about at the beginning of this conversation. Same people, the same disagreement, the same tension, but this time nobody leaves. Nobody shuts down. Nobody tries to win. Nobody tries to dominate the conversation. They just stay in it, right? Long enough to actually understand something. That's the foundation. That's what this is. Two sides, one conversation, and the willingness to stay in it longer than most people are comfortable with. Because, see, once you commit to that, you start looking at everything differently. You stop accepting simple answers. You start questioning your own positions. You start noticing where things don't quite line up. Because, see, the world does not come in a clean sides, one or the other. It does. It just doesn't. Most of the time, the truth is sitting somewhere in the tension. And that brings us to the first real test of this, you see. Because something that is already happening right now, whether people are comfortable with it or not, something people are already reacting to, something people are already using, quietly or not, something that is already changing how things work, and that's artificial intelligence. Not in theory, not someday in the future, but right now it's happening in real workflows, in real content, in real conversation, and specifically in something like this, a monologue. Because that's where we get personal. When a tool does not help you edit, when a tool does not help you just edit or shoot or produce, but starts helping shape what you say, see, that's where people react. And that is where it starts to feel different, right? And that is where the line gets blurry. And now the question becomes, does that make you stronger or does it make it less real? And that's the next conversation, folks. A case for AI and podcast monologues. Get ready. It's coming up. And this is Countercast. Two sides, one conversation. I'm Rob Way, director, producer, Terry Hirsch.
Hello.
Welcome to Countercast, folks. Let's get to work.
All right, cool.
What do you think?
I think it looked good, man. I think that sounded good.
Do you know how many
You happy
minutes?
with it?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this, like I said, it's
Yeah.
I'm going to do it again. I'm going to sound the same. I mean, I'm just, and that was a cold open, so I did pretty good without,
No kidding, man.
with never reading it.
Yeah.
No practice, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, folks. I'm going to say, hold on. I'm going to show you, Terry. We just did our first episode. I appreciate everything.
Yeah, man.
Let's see if it works.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we got everything working. Yeah. How you doing, guys? Folks, ladies, gentlemen.
I think I came down.
I'm Rob Way, and you're here with Countercast. Today is a very important day for us because we actually
nice.
going to introduce ourselves to the world. Good. You did great today. So I just wanted to record this first episode for future historic preferences. All right, love you guys. You feel good?
I feel good, man.
You feel good, man. Awesome. All right, guys, be good. Later.